let's say we have this door and it's 27.5 inches wide. And in the middle of the door, you have this towel bar. It's about 9 3/4 of an inch. But the goal is to put the bar right in the center of the door. What do? Well, before we start getting to the exact measurements and details here, we want to do some estimation. We want to estimate, okay, first of all, this space right here, if it's in the center, let's use common sense and say that, well, this space right here has to equal this space right here. That's the idea of a center, right? If this side was larger than this side, then the bar would be out of center. So the first thing I'm estimating is that the size of both sides should be the same. So the gaps have equal value. Okay. Now, I think it might be helpful to estimate the door is 27 inches and the towel bar is 9 inches, just to get a general sense of how many times smaller the bar is than the door. And we know that 27 divided by 9 is 3, so this towel bar is about 3 times smaller than the door. So what does that mean? That this should be about 9 inches, this is about 9 inches, and this is about 9 inches. Of course, the towel bar is longer. So these two ends, they're close to 9, but whatever number we should get a little bit less than 9, because this bar is already taking up a little bit more than a third of the door. So how would I solve this? Well, what I would do is to figure out, okay, how much space is left over when we subtract the size of the bar from the door. So don't be intimidated by this. All we have here is a decimal and a fraction. So we can either change this decimal into a fraction form, which is 27.5, and then work out the subtraction, or we can turn this number maybe into from a mixed number into an improper fraction. I'm a big fan of improper fractions, so I'm actually going to go through the trouble of turning both these numbers into improper fractions, and maybe we'll see why. Maybe it'll work out nicely. So 27.5 as a mixed number is 27.5 minus 9 3/4. To turn this into an improper fraction, we kind of multiply and add along this arc. So it's 2 times 27 plus 1. 2 times 27 is 54 plus 1 is 55 over 2. Minus, 4 times 9 is 36 plus 3 is 39 over 4. Here we don't have equal denominators, so I'm going to multiply this by 2 and this by 2. So we get 110 over 4 minus 39 over 4. Now you might think I'm crazy going through all these steps, but I like to do subtraction with improper fractions with the same denominator, because all we need to do now is take 110 and subtract it by 39. So I break down 39 to 3 groups of 10 and another 9. So we get 71 over 4. So let's just look at this for a second. 110 minus 39. It's about 40, right? So 110 minus 40 would be 70, but it's 71 over 4. Now, how do we know if we're right here? 71.25 inches. What does that mean? Well, 71.25 inches is the amount of space left over when we say the whole door minus the towel bar. So we have to take 71.25 and divide it by 2. Basically taking this amount and splitting it in half. How do we do that? Well, when you divide by 2, you can think of it as multiplying by 1/2. It's just a helpful way, right? You take the number, take the reciprocal of it, and then multiply. So 71 times 1 is 71, 4 times 2 is 8. And that's our answer. Now this is not a friendly looking answer, but we said very early on that we knew the measurement should be a little bit less than 9. So 71 divided by 8, if we were right, this is 71 divided by 8, this should be a little bit less than 9, is it? Well, 8 times 9 equals 72. Again, I'm trying to find out what would I multiply by 8 to get 71. Well, the exact answer doesn't matter. We can leave it as a fraction in this case. But we know that 8 times 9 is 72, which is bigger than 71, so this number is correct. It's less than 9. So we have a little bit less than 9 inches on each side. And remember, to keep track of this whole process, I knew that, first of all, I estimated the gaps have to be equal value on both sides, and that the bar goes into the door about 3 times. So we should have about 9 inches on each side, and in fact a little bit less because this bar is taking up more than 9 inches. And there are other things you can play with numbers as well. Like, let's say you make $25 and you're getting a 10% raise. There are many ways to deal with it, but we have to be comfortable with those different ways. For example, 10%, we need to start becoming fluent with the idea that 10% really means 10 out of 100. That's what percent means. So if you had, let's say, 13.5%, that really means 13.5 out of 100. When you see percent, you're always seeing this number out of 100. So we need to be able to think about this stuff as a fraction. Why? Because fractions are extremely useful in dealing with percents. You can't really do anything with this number. You can only do something with the fractions or decimals. And as a decimal, we take 10 and divide it by 100. But before we do that, let's reduce this. 10 and 100 have a common factor, which is 10. So divide both by a common factor and you get 1 over 10. 1 over 10 as a decimal is 1 divided by 10, which is 0.1. How did I know that? Well, when you divide by 10, you move the decimal to the left. So if you add 1 divided by 10, 1 is like 1.0, so it becomes 0.10. That's this nice feature. And that makes sense. When you multiply by 10, things get bigger. So if it was 1 times 10, 1 becomes 10. Right? 1 times 10 is 10. So the decimal point moved to the right. So when you divide it by 10, you're in fact moving in the opposite direction. So what about our raise? What do we do here? Well, you might be able to see already that the raise you're going to get is $2.50. And we need to talk about a couple ways to get that. One way I like to get and deal with percents is to rewrite it as a fraction, 1 over 10, and then when you find a percent of an amount, you multiply. So 1/10 times 25. How do we do this? You're multiplying two numbers. Let's write 25 as a fraction, and you're multiplying across. So it's 1 times 25 and 10 times 1, and you get 25 over 10, which is 25 divided by 10. Remember, move the decimal point to the left and get 2.5. This is your raise, and you add it to your amount. So in fact, you are getting $27.50 each month, which is $2.50 more than what you made before. It's a 10% raise. Another way of thinking about it is that you would be making 110% of what you currently make. Because 100% is what you currently make, you're making 110%. So you could do 110 over 100 times 25. Now 110 over 100, let's reduce that. Common factor is 10, so it'll be 11 over 10 times 25. Well, 11 times 25 is 275, and divided by 10, move the decimal point to the left, we get 27.5.